one, not that we need to, but it kind of levels the playing field to not imagine that I have anything more special to say close to your ages, so it feels pretty much like home. The other reason to be down here is I have shorts on. I usually don't preach in shorts, so you don't have to see my scrawny legs, so that's kind of...
This evening we had a wonderful worship service with Dave Williams was the guest speaker, and he provided a very enriching message. Personally, I think on 1 John chapter 1, he tied it to the theme of the sensual, the senses, where he asked us to think about how is our hearing spiritually and how is our spiritual vision, and especially focused quite a bit on the touch aspect and how Christ or how Jesus came to be touched and not to simply be an abstraction but to be a very physical presence. And we were also blessed with his son who did some performing of his music, which was actually really good, and I enjoyed that. He did 2 songs for us, one before and one after the sermon, and then that was followed by a good time of worship, a very kind of worship for most folks, and it was very responsive to the theme and the topic of the sermon. So I think they had a good response to Dave and what his message was. Even if some of the language wasn't particularly what they were comfortable with, I think the actual message and the theme was well received.
This evening we enjoyed semi-programmed worship, I guess, with a lot of singing and a sermon, I guess, from Dave Williams, who was very plain speaking. I found what he said to be really accessible, and I really like that he grounded his ministry in stories. We had some unprogrammed worship from which some moving messages and songs came, and I was especially noticing the way that the texture of song when it comes from everybody, and it just sort of like whispered out of different corners and had this real dimension of I want to say like the little updrops that come when it's raining out of water, like the little sort of little mountains that come. Anyways, that's my little poetic interpretation of the feeling of the song coming from all those gathered.
I went in expecting an altar call. I heard that he was controversial and conservative, and I'm controversial and I'm not conservative, and so I was ready to put up a fight and to stink also. And but he absolutely spoke to my condition. I was telling someone earlier, he just asked me to use my senses to glorify God, and that was such a gentle pushing. And someone else was saying that it's just like talking with him, just like speaking to him. He was on the same level as us. It was so intimate, and even though there were 70 of us, we were all pulled into this sweet, gentle, safe space where at the end we were thinking each other's thoughts and singing each other's words, and all rolling together in this one movement towards, I don't know, voicing glory, towards opening ourselves to Spirit in the same gentle, safe, intimate way that also felt raucous. It was a movement. You could feel wind going through us, and it was incredible.
I mean, one of the things I appreciate a lot about this gathering in particular, having been to a lot of gatherings like this, is just the worship time fills up most of the programming. So, whereas instead of having worship crammed into little side spots, maybe in the morning for breakfast, at night after dinner, it is the programming, and then we have worship sharing separately, and some free time. But at the heart of it is just worship, and it's programmed worship, it's unprogrammed worship, and it's a lot. It's awesome. So, and then this evening we had kind of a again, we're trying to get it from all different aspects of Quakerism. So we had, starting out with more evangelical style singing and sermon, which is interesting. It doesn't necessarily, if that is something that for me, I still feel like I'm watching as an outsider. So I try to get stuff out of it. It doesn't always resonate with me perfectly. But I'm not a singer either. But it's still, you feel like you're part of something, and then the unprogram worship that followed it, the open worship, was just phenomenal. Really tender, I would say. Just both in its silence and in its ministry. Which has been the case of pretty much all the worship this weekend, I would say. Tender is really the word I would use to describe it.